He's 57 years old now, is old Shinji Mikami, and I'm a big fan of his work. We've recently been looking at The Evil Within from 2014, and he was integrally involved in a lot of the Resident Evil games, particularly Resident Evil 4, kind of set the mold for that franchise from there on in. I am Couch Coop, and we're going to be looking at Ghostwire on the PC via Game Pass. Brilliant value for money, and this is the second from the new studio's Microsoft releases. The first was Hi-Fi Rush, which was also incredibly strong. He's had a double win because I'm a big fan of this game. This is available on the PlayStation 4 and other systems, including the PlayStation 5, which comes with ray tracing, which is what we're looking at here. Running at 1080, I've got all settings on high and some on ultra, and we've also got the cinematic motion blur on, which seems to take quite a bit of the frame rates down. We're looking in the top right there, we've got the garish GeForce Luminous number back. It is a targeted 60. I'm running a GTX 1660, and I think that I'm at the sweet spot. I've had it down to about 40. You'll see this has got incredibly flashy combat in it, and all the reflections are bouncing off everything. It's going crazy, so I'm a big fan of how it looks when it gets busy. I love how it's got a telephone system in it. He cannot resist putting those in the games, and enemies with inanimate objects as heads. We don't see too much of it in this. Why has this taken you 2 months to review? Well, I actually thought it was like a K-drama thing. You know those Netflix shows where it's like a boy and a girl and one of them can see a ghost and it just dribbles on, and I thought it was going to be loads of dialogue, cutscenes. No, this is a brilliant, supernatural, almost first-person shooter, stuffed full of amazing visuals. It gives you this Okami vibe. But let's start on the plot and sort of what is required of you. The city that you're operating in is desolate. So it is Tokyo, but it's no one around apart from ghosts. You're in this sort of parallel universe. And you're either getting rid of corruption or dealing with stuff on an ad hoc basis. And they give you quite a big area to explore at the front end, but it's really just narrow roads and sort of bit part maps. It's not till you get way in that things start opening up, fast travel, you have options, and the side quests are absolutely stunning. They're some of the best I've ever had a look at in a video game at this early stage. They offer such cool reward, and the stories are dark and intricate. You get really sucked in. The combat feels as good as it looks. You're really just slamming this light into these things. You have a build and there are choices. You get a bow and arrow to take care of enemies and certain structures, but you get a larger sort of sniper red bolt coming in, so you have quite a lot of choice. There's no dodge, but there is a parry that's timed that gives you, I think, a little bit of health back, but certainly knocks them for 6. You also have to execute an execution move, and you have a window to do it. If you're interrupted, you won't finish it. If you're hit, it counts as an interrupt, and the whole thing just resets. Exactly the same system in Shadow of Mordor, can you believe, with the orcs going down on all fours, and you have to get a window to get the kill in, otherwise it's no cigar. Stealth is also promoted, and you have a sort of alert meter on a circular system, so you can see if you're being watched, yellow to red, that sort of thing. They're not exactly the most perceptive ghosts on Earth, but it's cool. Stealth killing a phantom. And you've got a near level of anthropomorphy with these cats running the shops and dogs running around everywhere. It's awesome. I love dealing with the cat when it comes to vendor shit. Surprisingly, there's quite a lot to do in this desolate parallel universe Neo Tokyo. There's a lot of voluntary information to be had in the form of text and like laptops and certain messages written down. If you do particular missions, you will get some backstory on the characters involved, and it's there if you want it. I like that. It does hurt along a hell of a pace, and that was so welcome for me. I was really expecting minimal action, maximum cutscene, loads of text and dialogue. But it's been quite the opposite, with giving me the opportunity to just rush through all of that stuff if I want to. But it is all there for people who want to dig a bit deeper on the backstory and that villain who's totally Yoshimitsu. But my point being, there's substance there if you want it, but there's more than enough to be had just on the action game front and these visuals. Personally, I think it's a better looking Tokyo than the newest Yakuza game, but that, remember, has a hell of a lot of NPCs walking around. There's no one really to deal with on an engine front, so that frees up a lot. We've also got amazing figurines. Finding these machines, pumping all of your hard-earned money into them is just the way forward. All I got was, I think, some raccoons and a cat.
いいの当てろよ。何が来たかな?
But all of that is definitely part of the charm. I also want to talk about its rain and the fact that it's always nighttime, the way they turn that on and off, and how the effects work on the surrounding buildings and pavement. I am super happy with the way this game looks and runs. We're running version 1.10, and I'll put in the comments or description when that patch dropped, because it might be quite a large one and integral to some improvements on the game's performance. But I never saw, heard or read anything bad said about this game on its opening 2 weeks of launch. I'll also go on record as saying I think this is underrated as well on a critical front, and this year from that studio with Hi-Fi Rush and this under their belts, just like double whammy, and to be so different as they are, Hi-Fi is almost an amazing Platinum-esque rhythm-based third-person action RPG. Then you've got this, which is just something else, and it's special, and it's not mimicking anything else on the market really. It's very fresh feeling and looking. I love its art direction. These headless schoolgirls. Normally a game would make a massive fuss about introducing these with like a big long cutscene that drips on for ages. Now they just come hurtling at you at one point in the early levels and you absolutely crap it. So this was a tough pan. This is an in-engine pan. I'm at the top in the middle of the map of a building trying to just get like a cityscape, and the frame numbers are changing. What that does, it means that it changes the variables on the controller. So my thumb is still, but the frame rates aren't, and that makes the smoothness difficult. That's normally how I measure how bad dips are without software. But in combat, it's not a problem. If you're looking at a really busy area of map, maybe. But this is all really cool stuff. It sort of sticks around at the 60 mark, and I feel at home with it. It's comfortable, and it's so colourful and bright. And these particles, you never bore of watching it or doing these interesting as F side quests. The Witcher 3 was the last time I saw this much detail and character put into content that's not necessarily main campaign. It also doesn't mind making you do some platforming, and you can glide around and also winch up onto the top of buildings instantly. So it's a little bit like Second Son with the movement. You feel like you can sort of fly, but you're not unlimited with it. Also switching things out, using this wind special and having that upgraded. There's a build option and there's that big red spear that really is a devastating, almost one-shot kill on some of the enemies. But this is blended in with the bow, which is quite normal for some of his games. The Evil Within all came with that sort of non-combustible weapon option. I do also like the interiors. There's a fair amount of like poltergeist activity and still quite frightening sets, and things move around and there's like shimigami everywhere. I would so recommend this game, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to finishing as well. The collectibles and the figurines and some of the little stories in that map, and there aren't enough boss fights early on as far as I'm concerned. They are joyous and they very much create the arc of the story, but we should have a lot more, I think, for that opening 3 or 4 hours. I have of course been Couch Coop, and stay with me for some actual Couch Co-op content coming up. We are getting the Street Fighter 6 stuff sorted. I will see you down there.